Hey everyone, happy Friday. It's 4 o'clock in the East, and we head west. We're counting down to a night of dueling rallies out there. Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz are headed to the Sun Belt for a rally in Arizona tonight, while the disgraced, twice impeached, 4 times indicted ex-president finally leaves Mar-a-Lago, where he's been holed up all week, to head to the not known to be battleground state of Montana. We talk a lot about split screens around here and the Earth 1, Earth 2 of it all, but this might be the ultimate political split screen news cycle. One side is executing a coherent political strategy, barnstorming through battleground states like a heat-seeking missile, while the other has been mostly out of sight this week, hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. One side offering powerful, infectious, joyful warrior vibes, the other offering whatever they call Donald Trump's rambling, apocalyptic, lie-filled, divorce from reality message yesterday, to say nothing of the growing enthusiasm gap. Tonight's rally in Arizona caps off a week of rock star receptions for the Democratic ticket. Every battleground state they've set foot in, from Pennsylvania to Wisconsin to Michigan. Harris and Walz have commanded crowds that Donald Trump makes clear he still dreams of. People standing in line for hours, walking miles to get to their rallies. Crowds so enormous they spilled out across airplane hangars. And there's a different reception on the ground to tell you about. Today in Arizona, the local papers are waxing poetic about the political phenomenon that is the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz ticket. Here's one of those headlines. Quote, "There's never been something like this." That's referring to tonight's rally outside of Phoenix. And this, quote, "The energy level is just out of this world." Meanwhile, over in Montana, the local press there reporting out stories about how Trump still hasn't paid his bills from the last time he came to town. Or consider that Kamala Harris is racking up endorsements from lifelong Republicans. People like the first female mayor of Scottsdale, Arizona, who described this political moment right now as, quote, "a sea change in attitude in Arizona," adding, quote, "People are just joyous. People are so confident of the job that Vice President Harris can do that there's room for joy," end quote. There it is again, the J word. Joy. There's also the historic political endorsement today from the nation's oldest and largest Latino civil rights group, the League of United Latin American Citizens, which endorsed Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. It's the first time in the organization's 95-year history that it has made a presidential endorsement. In a press release, they cited the urgent need to put a stop to this, quote, "the politics of hate-mongering and scapegoating Latinos and immigrants." And Trump? He seems to be experiencing whatever the opposite of momentum is, struggling now with even some of the furthest corners of the MAGA movement, like the mega popular podcaster Joe Rogan, as well as right-wing pundits Nick Fuentes and Laura Loomer. So the split screen is not so subtle today. Contagious enthusiasm and the competent political strategy being executed versus 1 week spent in Mar-a-Lago, culminating in some MAGA loyalists turning on the candidate. Maybe it could be boiled down to the politics of joy versus the politics of retribution. The New York Times writes this, quote, "Harris is positioning herself as the smiling trooper who is asking voters to choose between the future and the past. We are not going back," she tells her large crowds, and they respond with raucous chants repeating it back. Quote, "It's no accident that joy, a battle-tested version of it, has become the backbone of Ms. Harris's campaign." We will be joined by Beto O'Rourke in just a few minutes, but we start today with our dear friend Michael Steele, the former chairman of the RNC, now the co-host of MSNBC's The Weekend. Also, the Reverend Al Sharpton is with us, host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, the president of the National Action Network. MSNBC columnist and contributor Charlie Sykes is back, and Democratic strategist Aisha Mills is here, all dear friends of this broadcast. Michael Steele, I start with you. I keep saying this, I think, because I worked on a campaign that tried to manufacture some of these things, momentum, movement in the polls, crowds. It cannot be manufactured. It can be executed. Nope. And we should say this campaign is executing at every level. But this kind of enthusiasm is phenomenon level. Your thoughts?
It is. You organically can't make people like you. You just can't. Sorry. You can have all the bells and whistles. You can open up an airplane hangar, but that doesn't mean people will show up. And they certainly won't show up to the extent that we've seen with Kamala Harris having, okay, open up hangar 2, folks. So yeah, it's real. And I think it's something. You touched on this, I think, earlier in the week, and you emphasized it again in the lead-in, and that is the J word, joy. That is something that's so coming out of the gut that people just feel this sense of relief, that there is relief here. I don't have to live in a dystopian world that's being created by Donald Trump, where the only thing you're telling me is you want to be my dictator and, oh, yeah, you're going to exact retribution on people that you don't like. Meanwhile, leaving on the table all these other issues that are important to me, and therefore I have to wait until you get done with your retribution to address the cost of goods and services, my ability to grow my business, how I'm going to educate the kids in an environment where education may be tricky. And, you got CRT that you're telling me is bad, but I don't think that's a problem because my kid isn't in that grade, all these things and all that pressure. Kamala Harris has found a way to pick a pin and stick a pin in that and break that pressure valve open for folks, and you're seeing it. Folks coming out, they're smiling, they're happy, they're anticipatory, and that, Nicole, there's not a campaign on the planet that can manufacture that. If people don't feel it, they won't give it, and they give it freely when they do because you're the candidate that brings that out of them. And I think that's something that Kamala has been able to do. And so the more Donald Trump and his ilk mispronounce her name, the more they level up bogus swift voting charges against her VP choice, the more these people fall back on joy. And they're like, I like this feeling better than the crap you're serving up.
Rev, there's a thing I think that women really are feeling, and that is the politics of being underestimated. Vice President Harris has been criticized for laughing, and it seems that she is, pun intended, having the last laugh. Let me read this reporting in the New York Times. Quote, adopting joy as a political shield has allowed Ms. Harris and Mr. Walz to throw some bare-knuckled punches at Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance. Both Democrats do it with a smile, and the crowd eats it up. There is no mistaking the sharpness and the specificity of their attacks, and they do not slide over to his supporters, something that I think people have grappled with for 9 years. They are surgical strikes against Mr. Trump and Mr. Vance.
Very surgical, very strategic. And I think that what is most impressive to me is they refuse to fight his fight plan. Trump is used to setting the pace, setting the tenor of any political battle, and people react to him. What Vice President Harris has done and Governor Walz has done is they've set their own pace, their own tempo, and they're not reacting to him. He will come with an attack. They will just kind of deflate it, may give a 1 or 2 sentence answer, and keep going with a positive agenda and saying at the same time, we're not going back to the days of segregation, misogyny, before pre-Dobbs decision, voter rights, and the like. And as long as you don't fight another person's fight, they become off balance and don't know what to do. Trump has spent the last 2 weeks trying to get his footing on how to even fight this political battle because he trained for one person, he ends up with a total different person, and he can't intimidate them. Everything he uses is not working. It's like training to fight Joe Frazier and you get Muhammad Ali. Now what do you do?